1.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Well, so for example, with potential and kinetic energy, the kids learn that due to position of a mass, that there's a certain amount of energy in it. So based on the height above the ground and how much mass you have, there's a certain amount of potential energy there. And they learn that when that motion begins, when that so my system it's losing potential and gaining kinetic. And so that concept because they start with a mass up in the air and then they release it and then it drops and they're converting that potential energy into kinetic energy, and then they also learn about mechanical advantage. So they learn that the distance that the throwing arm, the end of the throwing arm, is from the fulcrum. You lose some force there, but you gain some distance, so they actually gain some acceleration on the far end away from the fulcrum. So it comes down, if you're farther away, you potentially could get more acceleration, whereas if you have a shorter throwing arm, it's not going to travel as far, so there's less acceleration. But it's a fine line, you know, so if they have enough mass to be close to the fulcrum, they can get a lot of motion, they get a lot of distance and a lot of speed there, but if they don't have enough mass, then it moves very slowly. You know, so they had to balance that. So some teams did a really nice job being able to experiment and move their counterweight closer or farther away from the fulcrum, depending on if they felt like they had enough speed on the throwing arm. So, when we were working on simple machines, we set up meter sticks in here, and they had a fulcrum, and then they had washers that we were using for weights, and they would just keep adding on to one side, and they had to move one washer out on the other side, and so they'd balance, so that they saw that if they would get farther away from the fulcrum, they could generate the same amount of force as what they could when they were close with more mass. So.
Excellent.
4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, it worked! It worked!